Welcome to your Cyber Tips Explainer, where we make everyday people understand the cyber world around us. Today, we're talking about a story that goes way beyond just stolen data. It's a story about how a silent, invisible invasion managed to shut down a global giant and literally empty the beer taps of an entire nation. This is the anatomy of the shutdown of Japan's largest brewer, Asahi. 57%. So, what's with this number? Well, that was the incredible surge in panic buying at liquor stores across Japan in early October 2025. Just imagine it. You walk into your local shop to grab a case of Asahi Super Dry, something you do all the time, only to find the shelves totally, utterly bare. That exact moment of confusion played out all over Japan. A nationwide beer shortage erupted, and it was so bad that it even hit places like Tokyo Disneyland. And the crazy part? It didn't start with a factory fire or some shipping disaster. It all started with a single, devastating digital event. For a few weeks of pure chaos, Asahi, a global giant built on hyper-efficient, just-in-time manufacturing, was thrown back into the dark ages of technology. Their complex digital systems, the very heart of their operations, were completely frozen, paralyzed. So how do you run a multi-billion-dollar company when every single computer is basically a useless brick? Well, Asahi had to do the unthinkable. They had to forget the 21st century even existed. No, this wasn't some kind of drill. This was their new, shocking reality. Employees who were used to slick, seamless digital screens were now taking orders over the phone. They were processing them with ancient fax machines, the kind that beep and whir like ghosts from another era, and they were coordinating entire shipments with handwritten notes. It was a complete rewind to a mid-20th century workflow. Now, the massive brewing vats themselves were okay, but the digital brain, the critical order-to-cash system that tells the factories what to brew and where to ship it, had simply vanished. The beer was there, but the system that moved it was gone. And that right there is the central mystery we're unpacking today. How does an invisible attack, something happening in the silent world of ones and zeros, cause such a massive, real-world, physical breakdown? How does it stop trucks, empty shelves, and halt the flow of a product loved by millions? This story is about way more than just a computer virus. It's a chilling lesson about just how fragile the complex supply chains we all depend on really are. So to really get how this all went down, we're going to walk through the 5 acts of this corporate drama. We'll start with the chaos on the ground, then we'll dissect the digital heist itself. After that, we'll uncover the shocking scale of the data that was taken hostage, trace the economic cyberquake that followed, and finally, see how Asahi tried to build an unbreakable fortress to make sure this could never, ever happen again. So, the day the beer vanished wasn't just an inconvenience. It was a complete and total shutdown. The company couldn't even get external emails, completely cutting them off from the outside world. Their call centers went silent. And most critically, the systems that manage every single order and shipment were just offline. This didn't just mess with their beer supply. The paralysis led to them having to postpone 12 new product launches indefinitely. The entire commercial engine of Asahi in Japan had just seized up. Behind all this chaos was a notorious Russia-linked cybercriminal group called Qilin. And let me tell you, these weren't just some digital vandals. They were sophisticated, patient, and running a ruthless criminal enterprise. Their attack on Asahi wasn't a quick smash and grab. Oh no. It was a slow, methodical infiltration that began long before anyone at Asahi had a clue they were even there, just living inside their network like a parasite. The attack began in absolute silence. The intruders got into Asahi's network through a piece of equipment on September 19th. For the next 10 days, they were ghosts in the machine, moving completely undetected. They snooped around, mostly after hours, stealing passwords, escalating their privileges, and just meticulously mapping out Asahi's most critical systems. They were learning the company from the inside out. It wasn't until 7 a.m. on September 29th that they finally sprung the trap, deploying a powerful ransomware that started encrypting everything. By 11 a.m., with systems locking up one by one, Asahi had no choice but to pull the plug, severing their entire network from the world to try and stop the bleeding. So, who exactly is this Qilin group? Well, they operate on a surprisingly professional model called Ransomware as a Service, or RAS. The best way to think about it is like a criminal franchise, a dark mirror of a legitimate software business. The main Qilin group develops the malicious software and all the tech needed to deploy it. Then they basically rent it out to other attackers. These affiliates are the ones who carry out the attacks on targets like Asahi, and when a ransom gets paid, they split the profits with the developers. It's a business model that lets them scale their criminal operations all over the globe with terrifying efficiency.
But shutting the company down? That was only half of their plan. Qilin uses a brutal strategy known as double extortion. See, while one hand is deploying ransomware to lock everything up, the other hand is quietly stealing massive amounts of the company's most sensitive data. The threat then becomes simple and devastating. If you don't pay us to unlock your systems, we will release all of your secrets, your customer data, your employee files, to the entire world.
And the amount of stolen data is just breathtaking. Nearly 2 million people. This is the moment the attack goes from being a corporate problem to a deeply personal crisis for a huge number of individuals. We're talking about loyal customers, employees, their families, trusted business partners. The hackers claim they stole 27 gigabytes of data, over 9,000 files, and every single one of those files represents a piece of someone's life now in the hands of criminals. I mean, just look at this breakdown. The vast majority, over 1.5 million, were customers who had done nothing more than call a customer service center. Then you've got over 250,000 employees and their family members, whose personal lives were now totally exposed. And you even have people who had just received telegrams from the company. Every slice of this chart represents a group of people whose private information was now a product to be bought and sold on the dark web. So what exactly did they steal? For customers, it was the perfect starter kit for identity theft: name, gender, address, phone number, and email. For employees and their families, it was even worse, including their dates of birth. Now, Asahi did confirm that no credit card info was taken, but this is exactly the kind of data that criminals love to weaponize. They use it for identity theft, for phishing scams, you name it. The risk for these nearly 2 million people would last long after Asahi got its factories back online. The attack on Asahi wasn't just some contained event. It was a cyberquake that sent powerful shockwaves across the entire Japanese beverage market. The sudden, violent shutdown of their supply chain created a massive vacuum, and the financial consequences were immediate, severe, and, frankly, punishing. Just look at these numbers. For a company this size, they're absolutely devastating. In November, sales of beer and other alcoholic drinks plummeted by over 20% compared to the year before. But look at soft drinks in October, a staggering 40% drop. It just shows how completely the attack severed the connection between their products and their customers. The impact was so deep that Asahi couldn't even figure out its own finances. They had to delay their annual earnings report by more than 50 days because their internal accounting systems were paralyzed. They were flying blind in the middle of a crisis. You know, in a super competitive market, one company's crisis is another company's golden opportunity. Asahi's main rivals, Kirin, Suntory, and Sapporo, they moved in fast. There were even reports of their sales teams going into bars and physically replacing Asahi's beer taps with their own. So while Asahi was fighting a digital firestorm behind the scenes, its competitors were out on the ground, actively and aggressively grabbing their market share. It was a brutal lesson in how quickly a cyber attack can rewrite the rules of an entire industry. So, what was the final bill for this whole disaster? Analysts estimated the total financial damage for just the fourth quarter of 2025 to be around 15 billion yen. That's nearly 100 million US dollars. And that staggering figure covers everything: the direct costs of the disruption, all those lost sales, and the massive marketing budget they'd need later just to try and win back the customer trust they had lost. So, faced with total collapse, a massive data breach, and crippling financial losses, Asahi had to make a choice. The hackers were demanding a ransom. Asahi's response? They refused to pay. They decided to endure the slow, painful, and expensive process of rebuilding from their own backups. It was a decision that ensured they wouldn't reward the criminals, and that moment of defiance marked the beginning of a profound transformation in how the company saw security. This quote from Asahi's CEO is so telling. "We thought we had taken sufficient measures which were easily broken." That's a brave and incredibly candid admission of failure. The attack wasn't just a tech problem to solve. It was a shock to their whole system that shattered their confidence in their own defenses. It forced them to accept a painful truth. Their old security philosophy was obsolete, and they needed a complete paradigm shift to survive. And that big shift was toward a model called zero trust. See, the old model of cybersecurity was kind of like a medieval castle. You had a strong wall and a deep moat. If you were inside the walls, you were trusted. But the flaw is pretty obvious, right? If an attacker gets past that one wall, they can roam freely inside. Zero trust scraps that entire idea. It operates on a simple, powerful principle: never trust, always verify. It assumes that threats can be anywhere, inside or outside the network, so every single request for access has to be treated as hostile until it's proven safe. So what did this rebuilding actually look like? First, they made the bold move to completely get rid of their VPNs, which they realized was a key weakness. Then, they implemented something called microsegmentation. Think of it like installing digital blast doors between different parts of the company so a fire in one area can't burn down the whole building. They enforced continuous verification for everyone, all the time. They stopped sensitive data from being stored on vulnerable employee PCs. And maybe most importantly, they elevated cybersecurity from just an IT issue to a top priority for the board of directors.
You know, the story of Asahi is so much more than a tale about a beer company that got hacked. It's a stark cautionary lesson for every single one of us in this interconnected world. It forces us all to ask a really difficult question. We have built our modern economy, our way of life, on a foundation of digital trust. But what do you do when that trust is completely shattered? How do you rebuild from a position where you just can't afford to trust anything at all? Go on a watch marathon of our playlists with friends or colleagues to become a cybersecurity expert. And don't forget to subscribe to this channel, like and share this video with someone you deeply care about to have the foolproof cyber defense.